also, I don't know if you know this part, when he made his statement, he said it's going to be, he said, I believe what they're trying to do is going to be 30 seconds of a sex tape that comes out that's going to try and make me look bad. If you want to really if you want to do everything, he said, I don't have the tape. But if you want to show everything, show the whole 10 minutes. He said, but 30 seconds of this tape makes him look really bad. So now we got audio of him saying he's choked her. Once he's going to choke her. And he says some slick shit to her that, little white girl, I put a black baby in you now, a violent 30 seconds of sex tape supposed to come out.
Before we get into the game, Mace, I gotta ask you, we started a little discussion yesterday. All the Shannon Sharpe stuff, for those who are watching this new episode, basically he was being accused of sexual assault. On the side, he tried to offer the victim $10 million. She declined it. Now they're trying to take 50. She declined it. Oh, he offered, yes, $10 million. They declined it. They want $50 million out of the case. Audio files have been released. Text messages have been released. He released the video.
What is saying the audio? Because I want to make sure what I heard
something
was what
about choking her, and she was like, I don't want to be choked. And he was like, yes, you do. But he's claiming it was an edited audio file. It's a lot of different parts. And I know for the audience, I'm summing it up. If you want to know more details, it is online. But Mace.
It's new, and also Mace's new audio came out yesterday. He said, you want a big back, I put a big black baby in you.
Man.
He said, a little white girl put a big black baby in you, or something to that effect.
Wow. This is a lot. Where do we start? The girl is 19. He's how old?
54 or 56, one of the
50. Let's just say 50, in the late 50s, right? So he's in his late 50s, she 19. This is a lot. This is a lot because I know when I'm hearing people, they're like, well, this wouldn't have happened with a black girl. Let's start right there. With a black girl, he probably would have paid child support. There's a lot of things that it would have been easier. I'm just gonna say it. I'm not for this, but it would have been easier with a black girl if let's say she was from the projects, her name was Latanya, you know. He wouldn't have been paying what he's paying. I just know that much. Y'all think I be laughing? I'm not trying to see. This is why I don't talk. Y'all don't think I'm trying. I'm not trying to make light. This is a serious matter, right? This is a real serious matter. Let's make it serious because I'm not trying to joke. People would say that a man only end up here when he's being arrogant, right? When people get a bunch of money, they think they could do whatever they want to do. You know what I'm saying? I've been rich. I'm rich. Killer's rich. He's been rich. You know, a lot of people been rich and they still are rich, but I don't think we've ever gotten to the place where we're takers. You know, this is what I'm getting at. And for him to offer 10 million says that there might be some truth to this, because I'm not offering nobody no 10 million if I know I didn't do anything. And I think the only reason that 10 million didn't work, Killer, I want to know how you feel about this. I think the 10 million didn't work because the pimp need his cut. You know, just allegedly. I'm not saying there is a pimp, right? Let me give you. It's just an idea. This is just an idea, right? So if there's a pimp, right? Why y'all keep laughing? I know this is why they flew me back in. They wanted to know my take. But listen, all jokes aside, if the girl said I want 10, this may be the lawyer, right? Just hypothetically, all of these things, right? And the guy who put her on to Shannon was like, you didn't even know him. I put you on him. You didn't even know who that was. You was asking about college.
You was asking about college.
Yeah, this is your Thurgood Marshall right here. Him right there. For real? Yeah, that nigga worth a lot of money. You know how guys be, and they pushed her on her. And then she said 10, He was like, 10 is my 10. You got to put in your number for yourself. That don't have nothing to do with mine. 10 is mine. That's what we discussed. I'm just telling you, I ain't been out the streets that long. I know this is how P's think, you know what I'm saying? And if somebody's watching this and you know that behavior, you just put it in the chat and say it's Mace lying. And then another thing I want to look at in this whole entire case, right? I heard something about 50 or 25,000 a cheek.
25,000 a cheek.
That's what she texted him. She need 25,000 per cheek.
What are you doing with a cheek to pay 25? This is a lot. Paul, this is a lot to unpack. Just really thinking about it from an objective point of view. We pray all of this is like a fallacy or some kind of hoax or something like this, because he was about to get a bunch of money. And you know, when you're about to get a bunch of money, people that hate on you just wait until you're about to get that money and rain on your parade. But we can't say that. And that's why I wanted to say it, to get Stats' opinion. I knew when I said that she was going to go, yeah. No, you can't be on your way to 100 million. I keep telling Killer, right? And niggas picking these kind of girls. You can't do that. We talked about this with Ant-Man. We talked about this with several players. You just can't do that. You about to get 100 million. You can't throw it away for IG model. Is she an IG model?
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans. How does that work?
She got her separate account and she do her thing on there and people pay.
Is that the one like when people show their feet?
You can. It's whatever the client wants.
So just think about this. What can he do at this point? What can he do at this point?
Yeah, I pay.
He's not wrong.
I don't want him to pay, but he already made an offer.
Who told him that?
Huh?
Who told him to make an offer?
I don't know. It must be bad if you want to make an offer.
I'm not making no offer. Niggas can say what they want. I'm not making no offer. I'm going to court. You gotta get it through the courts.
Yeah, listen.
That's how you supposed to do it. I'm not giving up no money.
Yeah. I mean, it sounded like she wanted abusive. To be fair about it, she wanted anal sex and got mad because he didn't put a condom on. It sounded like she wanted some. I was put it like this. My personal opinion is what I was rocking with. I was rocking with Shannon. Like, this is shakedown because he moved from Cali to Nevada. She moved from Cali to Nevada, and I was obviously 100% saying this some fucked up shit until I found out he offered money.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I was pretty much just having fun, but pause, after you say he offered 10, that changes everything.
Yeah, and then what he said also, I don't know if you know this part, when he made his statement, he said I believe what they're trying to do is going to be 30 seconds of a sex tape that comes out that's going to try and make me look bad. If you want to do everything, he said, I don't have the tape. But if you want to show everything, show the whole 10 minutes. He said, but 30 seconds of this tape makes him look really bad. So now we got audio of him saying he's choked her. Once he's going to choke her. And he says some slick shit to her that, little white girl, I put a black baby in you now, a violent 30 seconds of sex tape supposed to come out. I don't know.
Yeah, I think if I hope all of this is untrue. If it is true, then they gotta do something about this. If ESPN can endure this, then they should give guys like Paul Pierce his job back. They should give Matt Barnes his job back.
Yep.
And even Michael Irvin, our own Michael Irvin, should get his job back.
Yeah.
If people are not just gonna, honor what they supposed to honor, to me, I believe that he should keep his job if he's innocent. But if he's guilty and ESPN keeps him, then ESPN need to give all those people their job back. But I don't really know how this is going to turn out.
That's very true.
And all I saw really was the interview with Stephen A. when he was speaking of it. And I was watching it very carefully, Killer.
Stephen A. said something about this already?
Yeah, because Stephen A., he didn't stand with Shannon Sharpe like he stood with Jay-Z. When he heard about Jay-Z, he said, the guy I know, this is not true. When it came to Shannon, he was like, I wasn't there.
Yo,
in a nutshell, yeah.
I gotta keep it ecstatic, you know what I'm saying? Because he wasn't there for Jay-Z neither. You wasn't there for Jay-Z. You were not there for Jay-Z, but you went out on a limb because of the character of guy you know. So I'm not saying that you're wrong for that. I'm saying I would have thought that the same standard would be there, right? If for a guy you work with every day. Or not every day, but, you know.
Damn near.
And I'm not taking a shot at Stephen A. It's just an observation.
It does sound like you was taking shots at Stephen A. From what you saying, I didn't see Stephen A. shit, but what I'm gathering, what you said from Stephen A. said, he basically said, I don't know the nigga like that.
Well, I ain't putting my hundreds of millions on the line for him.
Yeah, he like, no, I want to hire the nigga. He a little freaky nigga. I don't really know the nigga that well. So whatever happened or whatever happens. I already know Stephen A. He one of them people like, this is going to interfere with me. I have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, Stephen A. is corporate.
He said, I recruited Shannon, but I'm not the boss. Basically, the other higher-ups have to deal with it. That's what he said, verbatim.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, basically.
Is that throwing him under the bus?
Not a little bit, but not really.
In the streets, it's throwing you under the bus.
Yes.
But for corporate, he's not, because he's like, I hired you, and if I hire you and you do something crazy,
right,
then now ESPN is going to look at me when I bring somebody new in here, like, can we trust my decision making? And I need them to know.
Right.
I brought them here on talent. I didn't bring them here on morals and principles, because you got to remember this whole situation, as the history goes, a couple months into the deal when he brought him in there was already an allegation. You know what I'm saying? So now with this coming out, it's just like the second thing, because remember, there's the tape. And Walt Disney can't do that.
Mm-hmm. I agree with the part you said. Niggas that they fired for less.
Yeah, they fired a lot of people for less.
Yeah. Stephen A. said, I don't know the nigga, huh? I got to go watch that. That's
yeah, but the messed up part is the $100 million. I hope he really get that $100 million. But let me ask you something, Killer. If you had $100 million on the table and a joint from back in the days just say, you know what, I need 50. Mm-hmm. When you didn't wild out, but you said some things on tape you wasn't supposed to say. Not that you did, but and she said, I need 50. What would be your response?
Take it to trial. I don't got $1, yo. I ain't got $1 for none of them old bitches. Yo, listen, man. That's why I got an iPhone 3. I got everything. And I got it all. I got 3 desktops full of information, all my phones. I got Nextel flip phones. I got all that because I know for a fact that it's a lot of angry women that things may not have worked out between not just me, anybody.
Yeah.
And then you come up and then they're mad about this is a recent situation. Yeah. You're right. You're 100% right. It's a bunch of females that been back in the days. Not like I said, don't even gotta be me and be like, oh, this nigga up, he don't remember he did this, he did that to me, he did this. You have to keep your receipts, yo. Everything, especially if you're right. If you're right, you have to. We're just in that world.
Yeah.
Think about this, even with the Puff shit, right? Lawsuit was coming out every 90 seconds. Every 90 seconds a lawsuit was coming out to the point where they're like, ain't Jay-Z his man? Throw him in. You know what I'm saying? Like it started getting crazy. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, this is a scary time for players.
Yeah, man.
It's a real scary time for
That's
players.
The whole thing. I don't think it's a scary time for players. Me personally. I think it's a scary time for niggas who don't know how to move right.
Yeah.
And I ain't gonna say person like Puff, and I ain't jinxing nobody. I don't know his personal shit. Might be a little bit of karma with the shit he got going on. But when you somebody in newfound success. Like I talked about this yesterday when you wasn't here. He has a different success now than from football. You attract a different audience. You got to know how to move. You got to know how to move when you're an athlete. I don't know, man. It's good that you gave it a take. I think that your take was really good. I'd say, but I had to say yesterday, I don't really have much to say today.
Yeah. Last thing I'll add, 2025, I said it before, I'll say it again. Healing. Hope people figure it out because there's a lot going on. And I promise y'all, this is not the start.
And then also, Mace, real quick, because Stat also said if you play in the snow, let it go.
Don't know how it's going to go.
You're not going to know how it's going to go. But she said she play in the snow.
I didn't say that. I didn't answer.
All right.
Yeah, everybody want to play in the snow till it's a blizzard.
Till it's a blizzard, it's crazy.
That blizzard comes, you're like, what I'm doing out here?
It's definitely a blizzard for niggas.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, you gotta still. I mean, you got a lot of money. You can't really date in the snow unless you're gonna marry. That is because they don't play by the same rules. They didn't have the same upbringing. So their mindset is to do whatever you ask because when it goes wrong, they gonna want their half.
Yeah. I'm not even going to just say it's just the snow thing. Even just to this case, like ESPN, like if you are working for Disney, there's no Disney after dark. Like you have to know your role. I'm just saying,
You're
like
right.
you
That's
got to know
very
what
true.
role you're in. Like certain people can do different things. You cannot do that over there. Not with Mickey Mouse. That's the problem.
Not with Goofy.
Not with Goofy.
Well, see, that's the thing about it too. Not to cut you guys off. The money that he's part of negotiating has nothing to do with ESPN. He's just a talent on First Take 3 days a week. The money that he's supposed to get is from Club Shay Shay, Nightcap. He got Bubba Dub's show. He has another show with somebody else. He has like 4 or 5 different shows. And the money that he's being offered has nothing to do with ESPN. So if this money, it's one thing getting fired from ESPN. If that's the case, like I said, I'm not wishing that on anybody.
Right.
But this contract that he's about to negotiate is from all his shows outside of ESPN, the internet. This has nothing to do with it. And that just goes to show how powerful that shows on the internet are. We talk about Stephen A. getting $100 million working for ESPN or something close to it. And Shannon Sharpe is supposedly getting the same amount of money Stephen A. Smith is doing. And he's not even on regular linear television. That just goes to show when you work hard and do your shows on the internet, the check will eventually come. He got 4 or 5 different shows. That's where the money's coming from.
So he should still be able to get the 100 then.
Depend on
Because it
that.
ain't ESPN. Because every take that we're given is based on ESPN. If you're saying if that don't come from ESPN, then he should still be able to get some of that.
What?
I mean, what I'm saying is this. Like, let's say, for instance, I still think he'll get a lot of money, but the people he's negotiating probably cost him a few.
Yeah.
Like, yo, it's going to be 100, but take this 67 because we going to lose a couple sponsorships behind us, possibly. He's still going to get the money, in my opinion. It's just about is he still going to be a face of ESPN? And the Shannon Sharpe, he probably like, whatever, niggas ain't giving me that much money anyway. That's not where the bulk of his money is coming from.
Yeah, and as we move away from Shannon Sharpe, just the idea of what's going on, right? We also got to start paying attention, fellas, when they're telling you it's a civil suit. Don't feel like that's just a civil suit. If it's civil suit, but it's something criminal, it could turn criminal really fast. They're just using the civil suit to knock down a lot of your money. I'm seeing this happen with a lot of rappers, a lot of athletes, and people are not paying attention to that. Another way that people are just green to the streets, that's just one entity trying to walk away some of your money so that when they double back and say, well, this was you did this over here, because 9 times out of 10, if one girl say something, then somebody else gonna come say something, because they're like, people are getting paid, and people are getting paid for nothing. And I really got some issues, or they may really have a text or really have a message, and it's like I don't know what to do or what to tell fellas now. You probably want to get married. That's probably your best bet. Just from the outside.
About the Rockets versus the Warriors straying away from all the things. There's more, but we're going to go to the game. So
Yeah,
What's more?
I just feel like there's a lot going on.
What's the more?
that's crazy.
People getting deported, like
Got deported.
a lot of people in the States.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
saying,
why I said
The
this is a
stock
freaky
market is
week.
crashing.
Oh, you mean
Like,
the world period?
Yes,
Oh, I thought you
the
meant.
Pope just died. Like nothing is making
You said that
sense.
the shit was over. Retrograde.
Yeah, I don't know what this
Yeah, you said it was over.
is. I did,
What
but
happened to retrograde?
I don't
This
know.
is retrograde
this
stat.
is reverse retrograde because
This
it's
is
just
not
been going
retrograde.
bad. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. Sin can tell you.
What you just watched was definitely not a typical comedy segment because there was no easy punchline at the finish and no comfortable opinion viewers could simply adopt and move on from. Instead, that couch became the setting for people trying to process something genuinely disturbing in real time, with everyone seemingly searching for the right words while realizing there was no simple answer sitting in front of them. So let's take a breath and separate the confirmed reporting from the theories because the details surrounding this story matter. Shannon Sharpe, the former NFL tight end who went on to become a prominent sports media personality, is facing a civil lawsuit from a woman accusing him of sexual assault. Reports identify the woman as 20 years old, while Sharpe is in his late 50s, making the age gap immediately noticeable. But the circumstances described in the allegation are what ultimately pushed the situation far beyond ordinary celebrity controversy. According to reports tied to the case, Sharpe offered $10 million. The woman reportedly turned down that proposal, with her attorneys now said to be seeking $50 million. And once those enormous figures became part of the public discussion, private evidence started surfacing, including audio, text messages, and a video statement from Sharpe denying the accusations, while claiming the most damaging audio had been edited or removed from its original context. That changed the entire conversation because suddenly this was no longer something that could be brushed aside as another piece of celebrity internet drama. In one recording, the woman reportedly says she does not want to be choked, while the response captured afterward appears to push back against what she had just expressed, instead of offering straightforward reassurance. Another recording reportedly includes vulgar and racially charged remarks, creating yet another troubling element inside an already extremely serious allegation. When seasoned broadcasters suddenly start choosing their words carefully, hesitating, or looking visibly uncomfortable with what they are discussing, that is usually a sign that the material cannot be responsibly reduced to one dramatic headline. So how do you even approach a subject this serious on a show built around humor, strong opinions, and instant reactions? You watch the hosts try to work through it as it unfolds, and honestly, that discomfort may have revealed more than any perfectly prepared statement could have. To be fair, there was a legitimate tension underneath the awkwardness, because nobody should be pronounced guilty by social media before a legal process determines what actually occurred. But that does not mean disturbing evidence should automatically be ignored if the recordings are proven authentic. That conflict is exactly what made the discussion feel so uneasy, complicated, and at times contradictory. One host repeatedly emphasized the importance of objectivity while simultaneously entertaining theories about hidden intentions, a supposed pimp allegedly taking a percentage, and even bizarre speculation about the woman supposedly assigning value to different parts of her body. Those comments might create laughs or shock reactions inside a studio, but they can land very differently when viewers revisit the footage later and understand the full context, because beneath all the jokes sits a serious accusation involving alleged sexual violence and an actual person making serious claims. Take away the comedy for a moment, and there is one part of the discussion that deserves far more careful attention. The reported $10 million settlement offer is undeniably substantial, although an offer alone cannot establish guilt or independently prove that the allegations are true. Someone facing serious legal exposure may choose to offer a large settlement because avoiding a public courtroom battle can have financial and reputational benefits. But even that decision cannot tell us what actually happened privately between the people involved. The possible consequences can stretch far beyond attorney bills, including reputational damage, strained relationships with advertisers, and potentially the future of a broadcasting career capable of generating enormous income. That is precisely why the show's interpretation of the settlement number needs to be examined carefully instead of being treated like some automatic admission of wrongdoing. $10 million is obviously a staggering amount, but it is still not the equivalent of a verdict, and keeping those two things separate is absolutely critical. Even so, everyone sitting around that table appeared to recognize that a number that large represented serious financial and legal exposure, while still stopping short of declaring exactly what that figure supposedly proved. Then the conversation moved toward race, and although the hosts addressed the subject, their approach opened up another controversial dimension to the discussion. The argument presented was that the financial stakes and legal reaction might potentially look different depending on the accuser's racial or socioeconomic position. The broader theory suggested that settlement demands, legal pressure, and perceived negotiating power can sometimes be affected by who makes an accusation and how much influence that person is believed to have. That is an extremely cynical way of viewing the intersection of money, race, influence, and allegations, but it also reflects a worldview developed by people who have watched comparable conflicts unfold privately across sports and entertainment. Whether you believe that theory or think it completely misses the point, it helps explain why the room seemed less shocked that an allegation existed and more stunned that this particular dispute had exploded so publicly. From there, the discussion turned into something resembling a warning about protecting yourself when wealth, status, and a recognizable public career are involved. The basic advice was straightforward: preserve communications, document significant interactions, and recognize that a relationship ending badly can potentially produce legal consequences long after the relationship itself has ended. It is undeniably a bleak way to look at dating and intimate relationships because it can make normal personal interactions sound like potential legal landmines waiting to appear. But that mindset has clearly been shaped by watching controversy after controversy unfold throughout the entertainment world. Consider the repeated lawsuits involving major celebrities, where accusations, court filings, private disagreements, and settlement negotiations eventually become public narratives all on their own. We've seen similar allegations involving athletes and executives, following patterns in which private relationships deteriorate before the dispute eventually becomes a legal matter because one person involved happens to be wealthy, famous, and highly visible. And that timing deserves attention because it becomes more than a provocative studio theory when you examine how these controversies are repeatedly discussed. Allegations can surface while someone is negotiating a major contract, closing a lucrative business deal, or reaching a stage where their reputation carries extraordinary financial value. In those situations, the theory goes, the potential leverage can increase because fighting a public legal battle could cost the accused person considerably more than the original demand itself. The show's reading was that timing should not automatically be assumed to be accidental, and that some people could recognize moments when a wealthy public figure has the greatest incentive to settle quietly rather than risk a controversy threatening a multi-million-dollar opportunity. But, and this is where viewers have to stay disciplined, that remains an interpretation, not an established explanation for what happened in this specific case, and that distinction is absolutely crucial. Before we even get into the potential professional consequences, another detail became a major part of the conversation, and this one deserves some context. The accuser's online activity was brought up repeatedly, and understanding why it entered the discussion matters because it shows how quickly someone's personal history can become ammunition in the court of public opinion. She has reportedly used a subscription-based platform where followers pay to receive access to exclusive content. But that occupation by itself tells us absolutely nothing about whether her allegations are true or false, and treating it as automatic evidence of credibility would be a serious mistake. The larger problem is how quickly someone's profession, particularly when it involves adult-oriented material, can be turned into a character judgment before the actual legal allegations have been tested through evidence. The dangerous logic is assuming that a person's career, lifestyle, or sexual history somehow determines whether they can experience assault or whether their claims deserve to be taken seriously, when those questions are completely separate. And that is where this story suddenly becomes much bigger than one lawsuit, one celebrity, or one uncomfortable television discussion. Because the way people respond to allegations can expose some uncomfortable truths about society itself. That detail becomes even more revealing when you recognize how often this exact pattern appears whenever a major public figure is accused of serious misconduct. The accuser's background can become a target almost as quickly as the accused person's actions, and sometimes that scrutiny becomes so aggressive that public opinion is already formed before a courtroom ever examines the evidence. That same instinct, judging someone's history before carefully evaluating the specific allegation, appeared again when the discussion turned toward what wealthy, powerful men supposedly need to avoid in their private lives. The phrase, "don't play in the snow," was essentially presented as a warning against dating outside familiar social circles, with the argument being that relationships involving people from completely different backgrounds can become financially dangerous when serious wealth is involved, because expectations and motivations may not always align. It is a blunt generalization dressed up as practical street advice, but honestly, it says far more about the anxiety surrounding lawsuits, exposure, and financial consequences than it proves anything about any individual woman. And that is exactly what makes the moment so fascinating, because a conversation that started with an extremely serious allegation suddenly evolved into a list of defensive relationship rules, almost like an entire philosophy built around avoiding potential disaster instead of examining evidence. The ESPN connection is where this story stops looking like a private dispute involving Sharpe and starts raising much larger questions about employment, media responsibility, and corporate decision-making. There is already some history here, because this is not the first controversy surrounding Sharpe since he became part of ESPN's lineup. His original hiring reportedly sparked debate, which means this latest allegation potentially adds an even more serious chapter to an already complicated relationship between the broadcaster and the network. Major media organizations have dealt with comparable situations before, and the comparisons raised during the discussion were definitely not subtle. Other well-known media figures who lost their positions after allegations or controversies that some viewers might consider less serious were brought up as possible points of comparison. If ESPN continues featuring Sharpe while he faces an allegation of this magnitude, then those earlier cases naturally create questions about whether the network is actually applying its standards consistently. And if those standards change based on the individual, the circumstances, or the value of the personality involved, then calling them consistent standards becomes much harder to justify. Another particularly interesting point involved the way public loyalty can sometimes look very selective depending on who is involved. When Jay-Z faced controversy years ago, his ESPN colleague Stephen A. Smith defended him publicly with extraordinary confidence, despite obviously not having first-hand knowledge of everything that may have happened privately. But now, when the allegation involves Sharpe, someone Smith personally helped bring into the ESPN ecosystem, his public language has appeared significantly more cautious, more qualified, almost carrying the message of, "I don't really know him like that." The show immediately noticed that contrast, and once the comparison is placed in front of you, it becomes difficult not to examine it. If someone is willing to strongly defend one person's character without personally knowing everything that happened behind closed doors, then naturally viewers are going to ask why the same presumption of good character does not appear equally in another situation. Of course, there could be legitimate differences between the cases, and private knowledge or personal relationships might explain why the reactions are not identical, which is exactly why this comparison should remain a question rather than being presented as proof of hypocrisy. Even so, it is a valid media criticism hiding inside a conversation that otherwise drifted heavily toward speculation, assumptions, and uncomfortable theories. There is also a crucial difference between a corporation protecting its interests and an individual showing personal loyalty, and the discussion briefly touched that distinction as well. Publicly standing behind someone within a professional organization is not necessarily the same as personally guaranteeing that person's character, because executives and colleagues also have to consider the company's financial, legal, and reputational exposure. When a network continues supporting someone it hired, that decision does not automatically mean the organization has declared that person innocent or immune from criticism. Sometimes it simply means the company is assessing legal obligations, financial consequences, reputational damage, and the available information before making a final decision. That distinction helps explain why corporate executives and coworkers often sound extremely measured, polished, and almost lawyer-written whenever allegations like these become public. Nobody wants to issue an absolute defense today, only to discover tomorrow that another piece of evidence completely changes the conversation. And underneath all those questions is the money, which may actually be one of the most important parts of this entire situation. Sharpe's reported earning power does not appear to depend entirely on his television role, because his independent shows, podcasts, and digital businesses have helped establish him as one of sports media's more financially successful personalities. In other words, his income reportedly reaches well beyond a traditional network salary, potentially putting him in a financial category that gives him significantly more options than the average television personality. And that changes the entire risk equation. Even if the worst possible outcome eventually involved losing his television position, the business operation he built outside the network could potentially give him enough financial strength to absorb at least some immediate damage. And that reality changes the incentives for everyone involved in negotiations. ESPN, Sharpe's representatives, and the plaintiff's attorneys all understand that substantial money could be at stake, and that creates strong reasons for every side to consider whether allowing the dispute to become an extended public spectacle is actually worth the cost. That leads directly to perhaps the biggest warning buried inside the entire conversation, and it is something people should remember whenever another major allegation suddenly dominates social media. A civil lawsuit does not necessarily remain neatly contained within courtroom documents and scheduled hearings. Civil litigation may sound more procedural than a criminal prosecution, but a civil complaint can sometimes become the opening chapter of a much larger legal and public battle. It can also create pressure towards settlement because the legal standards and burdens involved in civil proceedings are generally different from those required in a criminal prosecution. At the same time, allegations raised through a civil case can potentially draw criminal attention later if investigators or prosecutors determine that the underlying conduct deserves further examination. And there is another potential consequence that often gets overlooked. Once one allegation becomes highly public and a massive settlement figure enters the headlines, other individuals with claims may feel more comfortable stepping forward, especially if they see enormous financial numbers associated with similar disputes. Those additional claims could be legitimate, exaggerated, opportunistic, or somewhere between those extremes, and simply appearing after another controversy does not automatically tell us which one they are. None of that establishes whether the allegations in this particular case are true or false, and keeping that distinction clear is absolutely essential. It is simply a pattern the sports and entertainment industries have encountered before, which helps explain why the mood eventually shifted from casual jokes and speculation into something much heavier. So where does that leave the situation at this point? The uncomfortable answer is that there is still a lot that remains unresolved. The lawsuit is ongoing. Sharpe has challenged the authenticity or context surrounding the audio evidence, and ESPN has not publicly announced a final decision regarding his future with the network. What is impossible to ignore, however, is the enormous tension surrounding the story, because it now sits directly where celebrity culture, money, media influence, workplace accountability, public judgment, and an unfinished legal process all collide. This entire situation now exists at the intersection of wealth, influence, race, workplace politics, and personal responsibility, which is exactly why finding an easy side to take would be misleading. The hosts never delivered a definitive verdict, and honestly, neither should viewers while major questions remain unanswered. What the discussion actually exposed, awkward humor and uncomfortable moments included, was what happens when people are forced to confront a serious allegation involving someone they have worked alongside, supported, respected, or personally known, while having no idea how the final story will end. And that is ultimately why this segment felt so much heavier than another predictable debate where everyone already knows which position they're expected to defend. Nobody on that couch had the benefit of complete emotional distance, because these are people who know Shannon Sharpe, have shared studios and professional platforms with him, and suddenly found themselves trying to process a deeply serious allegation involving someone familiar while cameras were recording and there was barely enough time to process their own reactions. You could feel that tension underneath nearly every joke, hesitation, qualification, and carefully selected phrase, because beneath all the banter was something far more authentic. People who were visibly uncomfortable with the subject, attempting to use the language of comedy and debate to navigate a situation that clearly belonged somewhere much more serious.